So, something that I really like to do is to talk to people who are responsible of innovation or who work with innovation in different companies. Because it's really interesting to hear how they do innovation, how different companies and corporations do innovation. And most of the times, what you hear is the following. So when corporations talk about innovation, you hear about innovation lab. You hear about digital hubs. You hear about incubators and accelerators. You hear about the culture of failure. That's one of my favorites, actually. You hear about innovation boards and about startup scouting. You hear about idea portfolios, about gatekeepers. You hear about ideation campaigns. But most of the time, I say, welcome to the innovation theater. Most of the times, these companies are just playing theater. I'm not saying that all of these things are bad or you shouldn't do it, but the way that most companies do it, it's just theater. It's really great to put it in brochures for marketing, to say that we are innovative, but most of the times that's not what makes them innovative. They're not innovative because they do that. And this is what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about today what it means as a foundation that you can start doing these things and it starts really to make you innovative. Because if you don't have this foundation, yeah, you can try to make as many labs and hubs and incubators as you want, it won't work. So that's my subject from today. Before we start, I have like kind of 4 different areas where companies have to improve. Most companies are not good in 4 different areas. And they have to improve in those to become more innovative. But before we start with that 4 different areas, the thing that I found quite amazing, in a negative thing in a way, is that if a company comes to me and says like, yeah, Jean-Philippe, could you like make a presentation? We want to make a kickoff for our innovation something. It's like, next year we have innovation as a big subject. Yeah, for 1 year. And then they want to make a kickoff. And I wait there before my presentation, and I hear most of the times like the CEO gets in front of the employees and says, like, we have to be innovative, and yeah, you all need to be innovative. And then at the end, I ask myself, do people know what he means by that? I mean, what does it mean to be innovative? It has a lot of different meanings. And everybody in the audience understands it's kind of different. What is innovation? Some of them feel kind of, yeah, like they don't really appreciate what the CEO says because they say, well, we are innovative. I'm always innovative in my day-to-day business. Now he's saying we all have to be innovative. What was it that I did before? And others, they say, yeah, well, I just care for my stuff. If everybody has to be innovative, the other ones will be innovative. I don't have to be. But I think one of the most important things is to actually say what they mean by innovation. And there are many different words when it comes to innovation, like disruption, also a very favorite word of mine, disruption, and open innovation, and this and that. And I think what's the important thing is to distinguish 2 different kinds of innovation. Most of the times it's called incremental and radical innovation. Doesn't really matter how you call it, but those are really 2 different kind of things. For me, like to define what it means, I could say the incremental innovation is if you solve a problem better, faster, or cheaper by improving a solution you already have. A radical innovation is if you solve a problem better, faster, or cheaper, or a new problem that hasn't been solved before, with a solution that is new and unknown. So sometimes a radical innovation is not really better than an incremental one, but it is a new kind of solution. But most times radical innovations are better than the incremental ones. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other. Successful companies have to do both. But the incremental innovation is kind of their, that's the, like, they just have to do it, right? That's something that companies that are a bit older, they're really good at doing that, because otherwise they would not be here anymore. So the incremental innovation is something that is just their job. But the radical innovation is something that many, many companies struggle with. I like to make it a bit more visual. I'm more the visual type. So if you put a three-dimensional space, then you can say you have here the status quo. Whoop, I'm too close here. So you have the status quo. This is how you solve a problem today. And here you have a space where you solve this problem better, faster, cheaper. And whatever product, service, business model you find that is inside of that space is an innovation. Now, most innovations are like here around the status quo, quite near. Those are product care innovations, like new features or marketing innovations, things like that. That's all improvements of the current situation. Now you have a space where you find the radical innovation. Those are new solutions to problems. And what I did on purpose is, you see those two spaces, they don't really touch. And this is something that many companies think that, yeah, if we do a lot of innovation, incremental innovation, now and then there will be a radical one, just like that, as a byproduct. But that's not what happens, because those are not the same things. I call it kind of a sound barrier between them. And why is there a sound barrier? Because it's a totally different way of thinking. So I want to illustrate it with a little story. It actually happened like a bit more than a year ago. My wife and I, we traveled back from London and we went to Zurich. We searched for an apartment. And one apartment that we got to visit was empty. There were no furniture, nothing, and it was a new apartment. So we had no pictures where we saw how it could look like with furniture. And like the floor plan was quite strange. It's not an apartment that you enter and you know, okay, this is the place where you have to put the bed, here you have to put the couch, and here the dining table. So we had no clue where to put what. And we had no idea. It was an empty space. And then it hit me. I thought, in our lives, we seldom have these empty spaces. And I mean it literally, like, we always find solutions to problems that just here. We know how things are done today, and those are not empty spaces. So it's kind of hard to get rid of these pictures we already have in our heads. So if you go into an apartment and there is already a dining table and a bed, you most probably will put your bed on the same space, same spot. So that's these two kind of things, these two kind of thinking. To illustrate that, you have a current situation, and that's how it's done normally. It's just naturally. And then you ask yourself, how could it be done better, this solution? And that's the incremental innovation. To get to the radical ones, you have to make a step back. You find your current situation. You make a step back, and you ask yourself, why do we have this solution today? This is something, I mean, it sounds logical, but it's just not what we do. Many companies have products, but if you ask, why do we have that product? Why was it built 20, 50 years ago? Well, we don't ask ourselves this. What kind of problem do we solve with that product? We just think, how could we do it better, faster, cheaper, whatever? But it's not, how could we solve that problem in another way? Now that we have so many new technologies. So you have to get back, and then that's the hard part. You have to get rid of all these baselines. Baselines, that's what we, like the rules we already have in ourselves that we just take for granted. Those are the things, that's how it was before. To illustrate that, if I look at pictures of my dad and my mom when they were children, it's kind of strange. Because my dad and my mom, they were always grown-ups, always. If I look at the children and I kind of imagine them being naive, needy, you know, like it's kind of strange. That's what I mean by baselines. My parents are always grown-ups. And this is what we have in our heads. We have kind of rules and settings and furnished rooms. That's our baseline, so we have to get rid of those. I say it's almost impossible to do that. So in order to do that, you need kind of different people who do these kind of steps. Like people who abstract the thing and presents the problem to people who don't know how the solution is today. So they find the empty space. And then the next step is you find alternative solutions. A lot of alternative solutions. Most of them will be a lot worse than the ones you have today. But it might be that one is 3 times better, 5 times better, 10 times better than the one we have today. And there's no better time to do that than today. We have so many great technologies. So it should be easy actually to find new solutions to problems that are really different. So this was the ground. Like, yeah, now you know what we're talking about. We're talking about radical innovation. Radical, it comes from the Latin word radix, which is the root. So it's not about radical extremism or something like that, but it's like taking a problem and like taking something and going to the root. What was the root of it? And finding new solutions. So that's the word, radical innovation. Now, what are the 4 different areas? I wanted to dive into those. The first, I call it creative leeway versus day-to-day business. So it's kind of the creative space or the free space you have versus day-to-day business. Some of you might know a movie from the 90s where there is a bus driving with a high velocity, and then suddenly they realize there's a bomb underneath, and if the bus goes slower than 80 kilometers per meter, then it blows up. It's called Speed with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. And except that they fall in love and stuff like that, Hollywood, it's about how to get that bus like somewhere and finding a solution so that the bus doesn't blow up. And I find this picture kind of it's a good picture to see how it is for us to work. We are the bus drivers in our day-to-day work. We have to see what will we do in the next crossway. Like if we go into to a crossroads and the light turns red, and someone comes and says, "Yeah, Keanu Reeves, in which road do you want to be in 2 days?" He's like, "Ah, shut up. I have to know where I drive now, left, right, whatever." So Keanu Reeves is the wrong one to answer the question how to do innovation. He says, "Innovation? I don't give a shit, right? I have a racing bus to drive." And that's us in our day-to-day life, every one of us, because day-to-day life is always more important than whatever comes 1 year, 3 years, whatever. We have customer meetings, we have whatever, like emails and deadlines and all these kind of things. Those are more important. So Keanu Reeves is the wrong one to make innovation. So that's why it's important to find people or to give people the space and the time to really get into innovation without bothering them with the day-to-day business. And what I find in most companies that do innovation, it's this part-time innovation. Yeah, we give our employees 5%, 10%, 20% of their time to do innovation. Yeah. Maybe the first time it works. Next time it's like half of them are not here. Yeah, we have a meeting. Next time it's like, yeah, I have to go earlier or I come later because, forget about it. So it's better to have just a few people doing 100% innovation than have like everybody doing innovation in part-time. So if we have the company here and it's a day-to-day company, what is one of the most important thing, or the most important thing they have to do, their task is to be efficient. Because they have a good product, a good solution, good service, and for them it's better to make this product as efficient as possible so that more customers can profit from it. So efficiency is really important. But efficiency is to find the shortcuts, to have patterns that you just can follow. So you have processes, you have this kind of structures. Most of the times we can make a question mark behind that. Is that the right structure to be efficient? But most times we find that structure. So what I propose is that companies have to take out a little piece. I call it the Avant-Garde Division, because I don't really like the word of innovation. Everything is innovation. It's kind of more than avant-garde, like people who can just look around what is there. They can go back if they see it's not what we were looking for, and find other places to go to. And this is about innovation, about radical innovation. And it's not about efficiency. Actually, that's something that managers don't really like to hear. They're not efficient, because they don't really know what the aim is. The aim is to be innovative, yes, but they don't know what they're looking for. They will find it by going into details, by going into like fields they've never been before. And here it's a different kind of structure. It's a lot more like a fluid network. So that's the first field. You have the creative leeway versus day-to-day business. Now the second field, where companies have to become better, it's a process understanding. And I'm not talking about a specific process like stage gate or design thinking or Scrum or something like this. Companies can decide which one or which mix they want to make, but they have to know something. What most companies think is that innovation goes like this. It needs a great idea. This is something that happens like this in the head of one of the employees. So eureka moment. And then we just have to realize that, to produce it or whatever. So it's like we're looking for this one idea, and as soon as we have it, we can go into a project. And this is the reason why many times when I talk to innovation managers, I'm like, actually you're not an innovation manager, you're more an idea manager. What they do is collecting ideas, putting them into sheets, making portfolios, prioritizing them. In the end of the year, it's how many new ideas do we have? Great, 200, 2,000. That's not the aim. An idea is not a thing that happens like this. So most ideas, for everyone who has been in a gate or in an innovation board who had to rate ideas, most times they're quite disappointing. We have to see that it's not about the idea. You can just cancel that. And you put here and also another phase. It takes time. It's about exploring something. Or in other words, if they have some mottos, the first motto would be finding the right it, or doing the right it. The second one is doing it right. Most of the times, if you see an idea, then you ask yourself, how can we do it? Is it feasible? Who do we need to contact to make it? How much will it cost? How long will it take to make it? Those are all questions you answer here. If that one thing is not really worth doing, it's no use asking if you can do it. So here you have to find if it's a thing that's worth really doing. Or if you make it more visual, it's like this. Here you start somewhere and you wander around different fields. You go into different subjects, different details. Here it's about making failures, experiments, and in the end you know what the goal is, you give it over here, and they find the efficient way to make it. Those are totally different worlds, and companies have to know how to handle them. So, now that's not the whole truth, unfortunately. Even companies who realize that, they have problems implementing ideas, because a lot of ideas, they fall here in between. Because it's not like the ones, they find something that is worth doing, and then they translate it into words that they understand. It's not like this. Normally it's kind of like this. And if it's an incremental idea, then it works, kind of. They find a way to make it. But a radical idea looks like this. Those are worlds apart. We're going to see just a little bit later that those are different kind of personalities. They think differently. So if they think they have a really concrete thing, it's a concept, everybody should understand what we think, what we mean by that, they say, oh, that's nothing, I don't know what to do with it. It's different. So you need a bridge between them. So actually it's not two phases, it's three. different personalities and different roles to do it. So let's go to the personalities. And I like the taxonomy of Richard Bartley. I don't know if you know the Bartle test, the ones who have to do with gamification maybe, because it's a professor who studied video games, and he saw that by playing video games there are four different types of people playing video games. That has nothing to do with companies and innovation so far, but let's go into those four different kind of personalities. You have the achiever. So those are the people who in a video game try to make new records. As many points as they can, the level as fast as they can, stuff like that. Then you have the killers. Those are the ones, they're not really interested in many points, they just want to kill as many opponents as possible. If it's the computer, it's fine. If it's real people who are playing against them, better. Then we have the explorer. Those are the ones, if they play Super Mario, it's always like the sound goes faster in the end because the time runs up. They want to see every kind of place if there is a secret spot to find. They want to find where the programmer of this video game stopped programming the video game. So when you walk against the wall, there is not there. That's like the explorer says, yes, I found it. And you have the socializer. Socializer, they want to have fun with others. It's not about like winning. If the others are computer characters, it's fine, but better with real people, right? So you have these four kind of personalities. Of course, it's not black and white, but you kind of can translate it into our day-to-day world. I'm sure you know achievers. Those are the ones companies really like. You give them a task, they make it half the time they assigned to. No, okay, I'm kidding. That's never the case. But they're really good in following the rules, in going after the processes, and all of that. Many times those are the ones who get promoted. Then you have the killers. It's not about the company, it's about if they get more bonuses or get promoted first. Then you have the explorer. They're not very popular in an economical way, because you give them a task and later on they come to you. No, I haven't started yet, but there is another way I thought of that would be better maybe. So it's like, yeah, just do it, just do it, shut up. And you have the socializer. You find them at the coffee machine and the cafe machine. They know where I've been last weekend. They know about your love life and stuff like that. No, I'm kidding. It's a bit black and white now, but you kind of see them. So for a company, the best people to have are achiever, normally. Those two are focused on the environment, on the world. Those two are focused on people or others. Those two, they have a clear aim, and they try to find the most efficient way to do it. And those two, they don't really care about the aim, it's more about the way. So, if you translate that to the three phases, it's not that simple, but you can start here. If you want to realize something or make a project, you need the achiever. Because they know exactly what the goal is, you can give them the task. If they know what the task is and the goal is, they will make it. Here at the bridge, you need people who are really empathetic, who know the others, who can talk different languages emotionally, who can connect. And here, you need more than just one kind of personality. You would say, okay, explorer, it's obvious. It's about exploration. But very important role is also the socializer. There has been some experiments that showed that teams, the most creative teams, are so not because of intelligent people or creative individuals, but because they have a lot of women in the team. So they found like the optimum is like 80% of women in the team to make it creative. And actually it's not about gender, it's more about social skills, seeing that everybody can share their thoughts, to feel what the other don't say but mean, kind of these things. Those are the things that are needed. Those are the things that socializers are best in. So there are also men who can do that, but yeah, you see, women have very important roles in innovation, and yeah, maybe you have killers, maybe you don't want the killers, but if you channel it right, and they don't want to beat the own people or the own system, but the competitors, or even the old system of their own company, like to be the own disruptor, it can be quite good to have those people as well. So that's how I would choose the people based on like characters and personalities. Now let's go to the third area, and that's about roles and tasks. We have now different characters and personalities, but they need different roles, they need different tasks. So, if you have this drawing from before, one obvious one is the sponsor. You need someone who is responsible in very high places for the whole innovation thing. It's quite obvious, but it's one of the most, not difficult, but hard to find roles, because those are people who already are in the company, but they have to, it's kind of hard to be a sponsor. I go deeper into that later, because it's not about giving money for innovation. That's one part, that's the easiest part. It's about a lot more. But we dive into that later on. Then you need someone on the other side, I call it the lead avant-gardist. That's someone who knows how to make other people be creative, to push them outside of their comfort zone, to give the right settings, right impulses to make people creative, and on the other side, know how they think and what it needs for them, that just say, yeah, okay, I trust you. If this person is too crazy, it won't take long, and the sponsor will say, no, I think it's too high the risk. So it's not an easy role, and I suggest that this should be a person that already worked in the company and knows the company, knows a lot of people, is a good networker, and has a good connection to the sponsor. Now you have the avant-gardists or the innovators. Those are the crazy ones, the originals, the punks, or whatever. I suggest that you find people from outside of your company, from outside of your industry even, because of the empty space that we had before. You have a lot of smart and creative people here, but those are the ones who know exactly how the solutions are from today. So find people who don't know how the solutions are. They're the innovators. Now, you also have people inside of the company who are experts. You need the experts. You need them for the challenging as a sparring partner, but they're not part of the team. So it's more like a relationship where they say, hey, we have a cool idea, we want to know from an expert, or we need some more information about that. It's not like everyone in the company is an expert. You should find the people who are really good at something, but have fun to break their own rules. Because experts, by definition, are people who know rules very well. So you have to find people who know the rules very well, but say, hey, that's cool. If that's true, then we have to rewrite history. Cool. Those are the people you need as experts. And then you also have the bridge builder, which is one of the most important and hard to find roles. Those are people who, like, to find them, it's the easiest thing to say, we're looking for avant-gardists or for innovators, and if there are people inside of the company saying, I want to, because I'm an entrepreneur, I always wanted to do something else than being in a corporation, company, those are the people you have to look for as bridge builders. Those are people who work really close with the lead avant-gardists, are very often there, but they still work in their day-to-day business. Those are the ones who are fans, or the ones who know what the innovators are working with, and go back and say, hey, it's really cool what's coming. You need those people, because otherwise that's a really fragile kind of thing, those two worlds. You don't need much, and they break apart. So, looks kind of like this. So they have a lot of relationships. They have to have a good connection. They need a good connection. This is also kind of a very intense relationship, because as a lead avant-gardist, you're not only the friend, you're also the one who has to kill most of the ideas as soon as possible. So that's not easy. It's a lot harder than finding cool ideas, is to kill them. Kill most of them. Kill most of the good ones, and all of the good ones, and most of the very good ones. Because you want your team to really work on a few little potentially really good ideas, and not like having 200 ideas around. And the last area I want to talk about is, and that's why I have it in another color, it's the most important one. It's the culture, the mindset. And I say the most important one because a company can be really bad in all of those. If that's really good, they can compensate it. A company that has a really good innovation culture, people with the right mindset in high places, they can be innovative without all those things here. The other way around, it's not possible. You can do all of those things. You can have your innovation lab, accelerator, methods, whatever. If that's not working, yeah, innovation theater. So, one of the most important things is how top management, C-level management, how they see innovation and how they see their roles in it. So, they have to really support it. And what that means is not only financially, but they have to know that it's not short term. It's not, we want to see in 3 months, in 1 year, or in 2 years, we want to see a return on investment or something like this. Most times, they won't even profit from it as a person. So it's kind of hard to find people who say, yes, I'm willing to go into it, and maybe it's just in 10 years that we really will profit from it. They need to know that it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable because if it was comfortable, it's not really radical, right? It's like they will work on things that C management will say, no way, it's not going to work. We would not do that. It requires personal time. One of those that I see quite a lot of times. When I work with C-level management, yeah, it's easy to say, yes, we support it. But then when you say we need time to find, let's say, like the requirements for the Avant-Garde team, we need to find a mission for them, we need to find a solution or direction for them. It's like, yeah, I have 2 hours, and then one day before the meeting is like, I have 1 hour, and in the end it's like half an hour. That's not innovation. So they have to know it requires personal time. It's fully controllable. In management, you want to control things. You want to measure, control. But innovation, especially, and I'm talking about the early phase of exploration, it's not controllable, because how can you measure something that you really don't know what to measure it with? You can't compare it with anything else. It's not like the project we had last year is like this, and now we can compare it with the project from this year, and that's why it's better or worse. It's always totally different. It's not intuitive. It feels bad in the stomach. It's risky, of course. It's risky. I mean, doing business is risky. It's always risky. It's not like innovation is risky and like day-to-day business is not risky. But it feels less risky because it's controllable and measurable. And the other one is just like letting loose, letting people do something and I don't know what. And there will be resistance from everywhere. From the other C-level managers, from all the people who do the day-to-day business and say, yeah, why do I have to work that hard and other people have fancy offices with ping pong, tennis tables and stuff like that. It's gonna be hard, and you have to be willing to say, we need it, we really need it. So, that's what quite often happens. If there is a new innovation team, the CEO steps up and says, well, we have here a box of ideas that we collected over the last years, just go through them. oh yeah, we have an old project that we started, never finished it, now we have someone who could do it. That's not what they should do. Of course, it needs more than just, it's easy to blame C-level managers, but to have an innovation culture, one of the most important things is psychological safety. Maybe many of you know the study that Google did with 180 teams. They want to find out what makes a team, like what makes a good team. And they looked at teams, at 180 teams for 2 years. And they thought in the beginning it's about diversity, it's about which kind of backgrounds they have and specialities and how good it's managed and stuff like that. But they found out it's actually the psychological safety. What that means is that people can be themselves, they can be vulnerable, they can step up to others without losing their respect or their face. They can also say things that are obviously wrong and everybody knows it, and still people respect them. So it's about being yourself in the team. If a team manages to do that, that's the best thing you can do for a team. So that's one of the most important things if you want to have an innovative culture. Yeah, you need a mission that is more than just like revenue or growth based. You need to have kind of a meaning inside of it. It has to be something bigger. You have to know what customers you're helping with if you find a solution to something. It has to be motivating. Yeah, the willingness to scale the concepts within the company then, when the concepts are here. Then you need recruiting on personality. We normally recruit people as if they were algorithms, programs, robots. So if you have robots and programs, you know what kind of skills they have. Okay? You know what they can do. And we recruit people like that. You look at the resumes and you say like, yeah, they did this, they have so many years of experience in that field, so they must be good in it. But actually it's the personality that shapes culture. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't look at the skills, but you should find ways to recruit in a way that you see the personality, because normally you don't see it. In the resume you don't see it. In the interview it's a very artificial situation. You don't really see the personality. So I think there might be a lot of different ideas on how to find more of the person. Let's say you ask the person before they come to the interview, what's your favorite book? And maybe you just go through it before you find it and they say, let's talk about it. Why is it your favorite book? Or you say, yeah, let's meet somewhere near of the company. You choose the coffee place you want to go in. Then you ask, why did you choose that one? Have you been here before? If not, well, why did you do that? You see how they treat the service people. You look for that kind of things. So maybe find out a lot of other ideas how to do it, but it's very important to recruit for personality. Playfulness and humor. Yeah, if you have a place where people are open to joke and to play around, it's a lot easier to come up with radical ideas, because in your brain, the place where it's about humor and the place where it's about creativity, they are kind of the same. A joke works quite as the same like a good idea. It's like about telling a story and then coming up with something that is radically different to what you expect. It's kind of the same mechanism. So you have to try to have more playfulness and humor inside of your team or company. Turn away from efficiency thinking. That's what I talked before. I'm talking about the early stage, of course. And then, yeah, no artificial barriers. It's kind of an easy one, but like dress codes. If you dress up for a wedding, you feel differently than if you dress up to go for a jogging round, right? You're a different person. And if you have kind of dress codes, then it's like saying to the people, you have to play a role. So there are dress codes who make totally sense. I'm not saying that everybody should get rid of those, but in most parts you could get rid of those. And most times it's not written dress codes, it's like unwritten ones. And the C-Kultur, something that we have in Germany, Switzerland, Austria, a lot. It's getting better, I see that, but still, something like if companies say, we're really innovative, and they go there, and they're all like, yes, he has professor, doctor. It's kind of strange, right? It's like, and the last one, innovation mindset. We heard before about the punk mindset. In the book that I'm writing, or I've written, that's coming out in February, I'm writing about different punk mindsets. And what I mean is, like a mindset is like an algorithm that we have in our brain, how we process with a situation. If X happens, we have a mindset that we do this and this. And there are mindsets which are better for innovations than others. I don't say that those mindsets are better in general, but for innovation they are. I won't dive into all of those, but I just want to show that, yeah, we even have kind of cards with them. So you have like normal ones like rule breakers. I mean, those are famous ones. Open thinker or growth mindset. You have the problem lover. You have to find people who love the problem, not the solution. Because the solution will change. You will have to kill solutions. But if the problem is really good, you really love the problem, you stay with it. Things like immortality seeker. You have people who say, like artists, who say, I may die, but my piece of art will stay forever. They look for really different ideas than people who just say, yeah, well, that's my next best idea. And I have some others, but to go into that, you should buy the book. It's actually, from today on, you can pre-order it, so it's kind of that's why I'm proud of it. Yeah, I want to finish with a little story. Maybe you also know this movie. Who of you knows the movie from the 80s that's called The Karate Kid? And I'm not talking about the remake with Smith, I'm talking about the good one, original one. Okay, so for all of you who don't know, it's really easy. Like Daniel, a kid, moves to a new place. He gets beaten up by the bully in the school. He's a good karate fighter, and but he gets saved from his janitor, who is an immigrant from Japan and happens to be a really good karate fighter. And they set a deal. They say, okay, you don't beat Daniel if he applies to a tournament, karate tournament, and they can fight there. And then the janitor says to Daniel, yeah, I'm willing to train you. So that's kind of the story. The rest is Hollywood, as you guys know it, with Love Story and the big fight in the end. But there's a very good lesson for innovation there. It's when Daniel goes there to his first lesson. He goes there to Mr. Miyagi. And Mr. Miyagi, like Karate Kid Danielson, he wants to learn the hard punches. He wants to know how to beat the other one, right? So Mr. Miyagi, he gives him a spoon, and there is a lot of old cars there in the yard, and he says, now, Danielson, you have to wax all the cars. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. Left hand, right hand. Yeah, what is it for? You just do it, all the cars. He's there all day long waxing the cars, and then the next day he thinks, now finally I can learn the hard punches. And Mr. Miyagi gives him some color and a brush and says, you have to paint the whole fence. Just go up and down and up and down. And he gets really mad. He does it, but then he's like, you know, I'm not doing your work. I'm here to fight. I want to fight. And Mr. Miyagi teaches him, you know, you first have to learn what karate is all about. In the poster it's written, he taught him that karate, it's about the mind and the heart. It's not about the hands. And that's what innovation is all about. It's not about methods and cool places and toys and stuff like that. It's about the culture, the mindset, the real understanding of what it is before you get into the hard punches. Thank you very much.